Hello and welcome to another Luke Salmon Books and Studios video where we will be building a website from scratch but using jQuery and a little bit of Hackshare, a library that I have been developing in the background to help build the website. There's going to be a hash-based router with the website as well as the server side, which we will get onto a bit later on down the line. In this video, we're going to be continuing with the news website and completing it to make sure that we have it fully functional by the end of the video. So stay tuned while we go straight into it. So as mentioned in the intro, what we are going to be continuing on with is this news page. If you remember from yesterday, we had, if we go back to the side screen, or should I say to the side screen, because we haven't been there yet in this video, this is what it currently looks like. This is our news page. We've got our title for a general topic. We've got some metadata here, and the main portion of it here, we've got a search box here and some categories here. I'm going to do some initial tweaks just to make sure that we have a bit of a gap between this navigation and the actual main content, just to be sure. I don't know why I've done it. Just to be sure that it's looking in the way that we want it to be, basically. So let's go back to here and to the main screen so that we can continue on with this tutorial slash building thing. So if we go down to it doesn't really matter where I put it, so I'm gonna add basically a margin top just to give a bit of gap between the content of the page and the navigation. So I'm gonna add 30 pixels there. That's looking okay to me, I think. So what I'm now going to do is inside of here, because this is pretty much a news page, a news item, let's say. So what I'm going to do is cut some of this, in fact most of it. I'm gonna do that, and then what I'm going to do is inside of here I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it pages, and inside the pages I'm going to say news-item, and this is going to be a template file that we're going to use at some point in the future. Here I'm going to say URL. I'm using a percentage because that's just what I prefer to use. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as it is unique on the page. We are also going to have a date posted there in a specific format, of course. We'll do that in code a little later. And the category, the category name, and the actual category URL as well, which is here, and the description itself, which we're going to use Markdown for that. So description there, because I mean this is a news item, so this doesn't need to be a link, so I'm actually going to get rid of this. This doesn't need to be there, and we're going to now move away from that and back to here. So what I'd now like to do is actually make this news page comprise more of an actual news page. So we might have, say, featured news items at the top. Maybe we'll actually section it off with all of these different categories here, and obviously if we were to click on these categories, for example, we might have the full list of articles within those categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 3-column state, let's say, and I'm going to have 3 columns. and each of these is going to contain an item, a news item that we're going to use to navigate to. So I'm going to create an anchor for a link, and I'm going to call this news item. Inside of here, I'm going to put h2. This is going to be the title, so our new news, our new website, and I'm going to have a P, and what I'm going to do here is let's see. Let's go back to our lorem ipsum, shall we? So if we go back to here, I don't want that. I want lorem ipsum generator, and inside of here, I'm going to just generate one paragraph for the time being, and just copy that, because what I want to do is, of course, just test. I don't want a full-on description or anything like that. Now, in this news item, what I'd like to do is just make sure that the font sizes make sense. So if I go down here and start typing in news item, well, first of all, this is an anchor. Anchors are by default display inline, so we're going to make this display block. I'm going to set the width to 90%, and I'm also going to margin auto that so that it centers inside of our column. I'm going to make the height 300 pixels. I'm going to have an overflow of hidden. So basically what we're seeing here is cropping. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a border of 1 pixel. And that's going to be grey. Next, I'm going to have box sizing. So what this means is when we add padding, it's not going to be affected. It's not going to overlap the width of the container. So if I then apply a padding of 12 pixels, let's say this is what it looks like. So as you can see, if in the corner, let's just show that. So as you can see here, we've got this padding, we've got our link, we've got our text here. So the width of the box basically remains the same because we've set that box sizing, the border box. If we go back to our main screen, let's continue on. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to select the paragraph inside of our news item. And what I want to do is set the font size to a little smaller, so 14 pixels maybe. Maybe that's a bit too small. 15 pixels. That looks alright to me. And what I'm also going to do is create an ellipsis at the end of the text for the paragraph. If I just how do I do it? I can't remember now. Hang on a minute. So ellipsis, or add ellipsis to paragraph CSS 3, something like that. So here we have our yeah, that's not right. Text overflow. It's text overflow. It's going to be ellipsis. Of course, that's not quite working, is it? Because of something. Let me just double check this. Where is he applying ellipsis? Oh, it's not actually doing any of that at all. That's interesting. Well, I suppose we want to specify the height. So let's calculate that to say 300 pixels minus, oh, I don't know, 30, 40 pixels or something. Oops. I'm just making stuff up right now. I know text overflow obviously does work. I have done it before. I'm not going to use that example because it's using stuff like this, content, blah blah blah, blah for whatever reason. I have no idea why it shouldn't be. I don't ideally want to use that example. I would definitely prefer to use the text overflow property. So let's just double check that and see how that works. Let's see, text overflow. So that's how hidden overflow content is signaled to users. Doesn't force an overflow to occur. Its container, you have to set other CSS properties. Overflow and white space. I see. Okay, so we've got our overflow hidden. Unfortunately, if I do white wrap, no wrap, it does that. Not sure what that's doing. I'm just going to test things out and see what happens. Pre-wrap, no. Don't want that. Pre, no. Sort of working, but not quite. Obviously normal isn't quite working. I'm curious. Why does it only work when there's no wrapping? That's interesting. Huh. I'm not sure what that affects. I'll figure it out off recording because I'm not going to worry about it too much in this video, otherwise it's going to go on too long and I'm not a huge fan of that. So let's just keep it like this for now. I'm going to go back to this a bit later. So this is our effect at the moment, so I'm going to adjust some of these effects. So let's go back to our main screen and take a look at how we're going to do that. So let's add a hover effect. Firstly, I'm going to say our color is going to be equal to black for the time being, and then when we hover over it, in fact I'm going to adjust that color again to something more like CCC, and what I'm going to do is apply a shadow of say 0 pixels, 4 pixels, 8 pixels, light grey, something like that. Let's see how that looks. That looks fine. That's not bad. Let's make sure that color doesn't change. So stay black. And we also want to make sure that we've got our pointer correct when we hover over it, because it is a news item. Well, actually, there's a reason why that's not doing it, because we don't have a href over our item, which is this here. So let's just go ahead and do that. News/item/our new website, and that would technically work after applying that, so we don't need to do that anymore. That's not bad. So if we were to copy that into each of these, this is what our result looks like. So if we go to our side screen and just double check, we've got our new website here, and then when we hover over it, we have this nice shadow effect going on, which is rather lovely. I can obviously do this. It's not quite 100% responsive, as you can see. We will be adding stuff like that a little later, so don't worry. We will figure things out a little later with regards to that. Now, next thing I'd like to do is add, and I need to go back to the main screen so that you can see what I'm doing. That's one thing I should have done, was actually add that monitor. That's what I should have done before starting the video. That might have been a good idea. I'll do it after this one. Never mind. So in here, what I'm going to do is say h1 class header, or news header, let's say. And this one is going to be general. So if I go to just above, let's say, and I'm going to add news header, I'm going to make this border bottom 1 pixels. Let's have an effect. Let's have an interesting effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the height 3 pixels. Oh, that's not going to work. Sorry. What am I doing? No. Never mind. So I'm going to make this like this. Actually, I might be able to do it this way. So I keep changing my mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a border that sort of fades into the background. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 000. Display block. I need to make sure that the content is like that so that we can actually see it. I'm going to have a margin of bottom of, let's say, 15 pixels, like that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make the news header itself display inline block. And in order for this to work properly, we need to clearfix. So I'm going to say clearfix just below it, so that we get that effect, as you can see. And what I'm also going to do is add some padding to the left and right. So I'm going to have padding of 20 pixels, 0 pixels. That should be the other way around. I always get confused which way round it is. Oh, of course. Never mind that. Never mind. Yeah, okay, whatever. So what I'm going to do is add a radius of, let's say, 20 pixels. Which is designed, or supposed to be designed, to effectively create an ellipsis of the block element, which is interesting. Let me show you what's going on. So here we've got this black underline, and what I'd like to do is make it so that it's kind of circular. Actually, I think I know why. There we go. So I knew that was something. So what I've done is made it a percentage. So if we go back to our main screen, I've made this border radius a percentage so that we have that effect going on there, as you saw on the side screen, or now in the corner of the screen. So we're going to have 3 of these. We're going to have it for our general, we're going to have it for development, like that, right? And you know what? Let's add some padding. Not padding, sorry, margin. So let's add, let's say, 10 pixels and 20 pixels. So that it looks like that. And I think what I'd like to do is, on the last item here, instead of having our description like this, we're going to have this as our view more, let's say. So view more, and inside of here I'm going to say view more. So if I go down here, I'm going to say dot news item dot view more, and inside of here what I'd like to do is make sure that this H2 or H1, what did I make it? I've forgotten now. Going to the wrong place, get rid of that. It's H2, okay. So yeah, H2. So we've got a news item dot view more H2, and that is interesting. Text align center, so we've got that centered. That should work. Just like this, yeah. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is make sure that the margin top, we're going to calculate 50% minus I'm just guessing on the size of the block there. Guessing on the size of the text, I mean. So something like that. Something like that. So let me show you what's going on there. If we go over to here, we've got go away. There we go. So we've got two items here. So that would be our two main items. That would be ordered in, I believe it would technically be descending order. So that we get the first news item for this particular category, and we want to view more. So that would take us to more categories within general. So that would basically be the same as clicking on here. So I think that looks good. That's all right. That's all right. I don't have any pictures to show. I think it might be a good idea to add some pictures at some point. That will probably be functionality that will come a bit later. But yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I quite like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another page, and I'm going to call it news.htm. And actually, I'm going to need to go back to the main screen. And I'm going to rename this to news-item basic. So that would be for this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to add it to basic here. So this is going to be our URL. This is going to be the title and description. And I'm removing the paragraph tag because Markdown will convert it into a paragraph tag anyway. And for our actual what's it called? That needs to be a clear fix there. Don't forget that. Can't be forgetting clear fixes. So for our main page that we see, so side screen, this is going to be our main page for our blog. So this is our headers, right? So we want to make sections for each of our headers, which will be dependent on the categories that we have. So if we go to create a new page again, I keep forgetting, go to the main screen. If I create this new page, I should probably add shortcuts to OBS. That might be a better idea. There's probably a way to do that. I haven't looked into it, so I'll look into it after this video. Anyway, so if I create, let's say, news.htm, so this is going to be the main news page, and I'm going to say categories. I'm just going to put percentage categories, or should I? I'll just put category. So in between there, I'm going to have a div class of clearfix, and the same again after. Something like that, right? So what that means is then we'll have category content there. So what that means is we'll have each of our categories is going to be that, right? We know there's going to be this. That's technically a gap there. I don't think I need that anymore because I'm adding margin. So I'm going to get rid of that just to be a bit consistent. And So we've got all of our div class, call for, and here we've also got our news item view more, and that's not going to be that, it's going to be more, something like this, right? Just as we have at the top here in the corner of the screen. Okay. Now, before I cap off this video, the next thing I want to do is create a footer. I want to add a footer to the document. So we've got our header, we've got our content, but we do not have a footer. So let's go ahead and add one. So div id footer. So down here, I'm going to have a panel. I'm also going to have col 6. So we're going to have 2 columns instead of 3 or 4. I'm going to have 2 of them. Inside of here, I'm going to have p class small. I believe I've got a small. And inside of here, I'm just going to say copy, which is basically copyright. I'm just going to put the usual stuff in here. As you can imagine, all rights reserved. I'm going to adjust the margin there, so I'm going to say down here, footer margin is going to be, let's say 20 pixels, 50 pixels. Again, I'm doing it the wrong way around. I believe. I need the clear fix. Always with the clear fix. There we go. So there we have the copyright, and inside of the other one I'm going to have p class small, and I'm also going to put a text right, meaning to align it to the right. So I'm just going to have a basic terms of service and privacy policy. I'm not going to do this in recording. That's not going to be useful to any of you. Well, it probably would technically be useful, but only for people who actually care about the law. Who does, right? So let's just go ahead and add this in here. Every single website must have a terms of service and privacy policy, because it just does. So our text right is just simply going to be text align right. I'm not going to go overboard with the footer. I mean, it's a personal blog. It's not like a corporate website or anything. So it's just going to be that simple. Not going to be overly complicated or anything like that. So let's just adjust the what's going on here. Oh, that's interesting. It actually ignores the margin after at the bottom. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm sure that's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, so this is basically the news page, pretty much complete. I'm not going to add any database stuff until a bit later. I want to get all of the design done first before adding any of the functionality in here. So I'm going to leave it for the time being. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.